Well, hey, Hunter, this is Mr. Axum giving you a little tutorial here on how to get ready for your test. There are some things that I definitely wanted to highlight for you when we were going over the book of Exodus. You'll remember that we were looking at this handout and we were talking about how we had moved from dealing with, well, the coming together of God's people. And then after the verse 18 or chapter 18 of Exodus, that's where they arrive at Mount Sinai. And so they've become the people of God, and now they're going to be given all kinds of information on the rules and blessings that can happen for them as God's people. In this handout, definitely want to make sure that you know this information right here, that God has established a nation of people, the Israelites, and those are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And also remember that God has saved the Israelites by substitution. And you remember that has to do with the Passover, right? And so the Passover lamb has died and in the place of the Israelites so that God's wrath passes over them. And then there's this part of the handout where we were looking at Exodus chapters 19 through 40. And you can see the sections that I've highlighted here. I want you to be able to remember Mount Sinai. That's where Moses goes on up and the Israelites receive, at Moses being their representative, the covenant, the terms of the covenant, and that's the famous Ten Commandments. And then God reveals to Moses his plan to have a sanctuary or a tabernacle where God can dwell with his people. He wants to be near them. And this is part of God's plan to restore God's presence to the Israelites. And then some information here about the Ark of the Covenant and how it's symbolic. And then also on the back side of that handout, we've got this tension that exists, right? God is among his people and he wants to show them his mercy, but he also has to deal with evil. And God is pledging himself to be faithful, and he is, but he's pledging himself to a group of people who are unfaithful. And then it's very good for you to be able to state this area right here, this conclusion, in your own words. In your own words. And then finally, let's see. There's supposed to be one more image in here. Let me find it here. There it is. And here's the reality that salvation comes before the law, right? And God's law reveals our sin, it reveals our need for a Savior, and God's law reveals his standards.